Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Looking for Mercersburg Academy Blue Storm versus the Kiski School Cougars in wrestling. Currently delayed. We will be back in a few minutes when we are ready to air. One of Pennsylvania High School's longest rivalries continues with the Mercersburg Academy Blue Storm taking on the Kiski School Cougars in the sixth leg of the Centennial Cup for 2014-2015. Alan Mars alongside Rick Hendrickson for tonight's action on the Strive Network. As this, again, Centennial Cup dating back to 1913 when the rivalry began, as 2013 season was the beginning of the Cup. 11 different sports convene for these groups. As looking at the wrestling, Mercersburg, led by Cody Frost Eisenberg, the senior that is from Ashland, Oregon at the 220 weight class, 15-3 record on the year. He is just dominating this season. First place in the opening tournament of the year at the Holloway Invitational, and then coming off a fresh 5-0 record at the Capital Duels last week.
Yeah, Cody has been I don't want to say he's a surprise, but he's a good athlete. He was actually taken out of our football season by an injury, so he wasn't able to compete, wasn't able to get on the mats until after Thanksgiving, and when he did get on the mats, proved very quickly to be pretty proficient. The crazy thing about him, Alan, is he's only wrestled for 3 years, and he has aspirations for collegiate competition. He's still looking at what his his potential offers would be, and he knows that he needs to do something this season to garner more attention. One thing that does limit him is he wants to go back out to the West Coast, and the West Coast doesn't have as much wrestling as the East Coast in terms of collegiate opportunities. But on top of being a good wrestler, he's also a great kid. Very rarely is a one-year senior chosen as a captain in our wrestling program. This year, Cody was chosen as a captain in the wrestling program in just his first year with us.
Rick, as the athletic director of Mercersburg, you have very familiar knowledge with the head coach of the Blue Storm, Nate Jacklin, as you actually coached him when he was an undergrad here at Mercersburg.
Yeah, and that's how you know when you've been around for a while, when you hire the guy that you coach to take over for you when you take another position. Nate came to us from Mount Vernon, Ohio, actually was a captain in both soccer and wrestling for us, graduated from Mercersburg, went to Columbia University, was their Rookie of the Year his freshman campaign, was a starter for them for 3 out of 4 years, and he was coaching in Virginia when I was appointed as the athletic director 7 years ago. And so I started talking with him about any interest he would have in coming back to his alma mater. Nate's an AP economics teacher, teaches an entrepreneur class, and is a heck of a wrestling coach. So he was interested. His wife loved it. They now have 3 wonderful children, all of them born since they arrived here, and they've made it home. And Nate's doing a nice job with this year in particular, an extremely young team.
Jacklin under his 4th season here as head coach, 1 national prep champion, 5 place winners also in the prep championships. He has led an individual to a state championship here with the PESA prep school tournament, which will be hosted here in a few weeks, as it was last year as well.
Yes, we're very excited about that. We bring 20 teams from across the state and primarily Philadelphia, highlighted by nationally ranked Wyoming Seminary. It's a great couple of days of wrestling. The championship finals are very, very tough, and in fact, I'll put them up against almost any postseason competition. And the top 6 place winners in each one of those weight classes will then advance to Lehigh University in the National Prep Tournament, which features the top independent school wrestling in the country, over 120 teams each year.
Wrapping up introductions here at the Nolde Gym is real quick, standard dual procedure here. One match per weight class. Go through the weights and then get the points. 3 points for a standard decision, 4 for a major decision, as that's more than 7 points but short of 15, as we will be right back after the national anthem. And welcome back into Nolde Gym here in Mercersburg, Pennsylvania, as we are about to get set for action between the Kiski School Cougars taking on Mercersburg Academy Blue Storm in the Centennial Cup, dual meet for wrestling. Alan Mars alongside Rick Hendrickson for today's action on the Strive Network. As real quick, our captains deciding the coin toss before we start. The matches begin at 113-pound weight class, so it'll be Kent Hall for Mercersburg, the freshman out of Califon, New Jersey, taking on Dejon Webb. As Kent Hall, the freshman, 3-5 on the year. He did have a fourth-place finish at the Holloway Invitational to begin the season.
Yeah, and Alan, this is for our viewers and listeners who don't know that much about wrestling, there is the hand-to-hand combat that occurs, and what's the greatness of the sport. It's a mano-a-mano thing. But there's also a chess match that goes on in a dual meet. And the chess match is that coaches weigh kids in, and many times they'll wrestle that weight class. But periodically, to gain an advantage from one weight class to another, a coach will shift. They might weigh a kid in at 113 pounds and then move him to 120, or they might take their first team 120 guy and move him to 126 or something like that. And I think you're going to see a little bit of that because both of these squads are young. Each of them has some, each squad has some good wrestlers. And so the coaches are trying to match up to ultimately get that dual meet victory and get that point for the Centennial Cup. The Centennial Cup that last year won by Kiski, as you mentioned. It's a big deal, when two schools have known each other for as long as these two schools have, and the competition that comes with that, it just builds the excitement. And today, in addition to hosting wrestling, we actually are hosting Kiski and swimming as well. So as soon as this is over, the cup goes over to the swimming meet.
Wrestling series between these two schools began in 1942. The overall series lead is in Mercersburg's advantage, 17-14 with one draw. As we're set to begin the action, referee gives the whistle. Both teams fighting quick early takedown shot attempt by Webb as he'll go in for the double leg. As defense there shortened for Hall, as Webb will work the way to the back and get the early takedown.
Yeah, Hall's a first-year wrestler. He's shown some capabilities, but he's also been a bit injury-prone of late. He's had his practice time limited, so it'll be interesting to see how he responds in this match and how he does heading into the third period.
As Webb breaking down Hall with a half Nelson on the left side as he's continuing to look for the turn opportunity.
And there's a first-year mistake with that full Nelson and a penalty point on that Kent Hall is going to benefit from.
As that'll be a point for Hall with the penalty. As they will reset back at the middle. As Webb electing to give the cut symbol, that means he will allow the opponent to come off of the mat as they will work to a neutral position, but will give up the 1-point escape.
So Hall has the lead, and it's obvious that he thinks he can do better on his feet. And this ought to be interesting here with Kent in.
As Hall tries to go for the scramble, will be reversed to a takedown by Webb. He'll put him straight to his back as he has him in trouble, as he will get points for the near fall, as he was given 2 by the official. So now 6-1 the lead with 55 seconds left in the first period for Dejon Webb.
And that was a nice counter by Webb to come over on Hall, but Hall showing some heart in fighting off his back that first time. But Webb's got a pretty tight half Nelson, and Hall may make it off the mat though.
As Webb gets the turn on Hall again, as he's got the 3 points on the near fall, as they're scrambling to fight. Hall trying to avoid as he will avoid the fall, avoid the pinfall, but he will give up 3 points as the early advantage is 9-1 for Dejon Webb for Kiski with 33 seconds, on the clock.
And what Kent's going to have to do here is he's going to have to pressure back into Dejon and get his base, getting his base and keeping his head up to keep that half Nelson off. But I have to give Webb credit. He's doing a nice job with that half, and now he's got that angle, so he's going to be able to rotate it over on Kent.
As he continues to drive on the half Nelson turn attempt, he'll get him over the 45-degree angle as the count continues with 14 seconds left to go in the first period. As Hall fighting off, keeping his shoulder up, trying to avoid the pinfall. As time's ticking down, he has 3 seconds left, and they will end it with official 0.9 seconds left on the clock for the pinfall. So Kiski will begin the early action with 6 points off of the early victory.
And that was just a nice job by Webb. He didn't do anything fancy. That's what Kiski does. Joe Ross has been their coach for several years. He was actually a parent of a Kiski wrestler before that. Joe's a retired state trooper who got into coaching wrestling. And, he does they run the basics. They're going to hit you with a good basic takedown. They're going to come at you with that half Nelson, and you're going to have to hustle to beat them. And that was a great move in terms of Webb exploiting the weakness that Hall has.
So now move to the 120-pound weight class where the native of Seoul, South Korea, the sophomore Steve Min for Mercersburg Academy, 2-7 on the year. He was a 6th-place finisher at the 2014 Paysaw State Tournament at the 113-pound division. His opponent will be Alex Wensing, also a sophomore for Kiski.
Yeah, Steve was one of the stories of last year. First-year wrestler, lightweight, didn't know any, had never been on a wrestling mat in December, and by February was able to put some things together. Just a very aggressive kid. In fact, the mistakes that he makes are because of being overly aggressive sometimes. You see that with that first takedown. He just goes right in there and goes after it.
Well, with the quick ankle pick on the single leg attempt, he has the back control, trying to keep Wensing down on the mat as the scramble right now to keep him in control. He has a wrist lock with the body lock as both working to their feet. Wensing trying to get out of the hold, but he will be broken back down to the mat. Men try to go for a trip for a turn, could not get it. Both continue to scramble on their feet as men controlling the early action. 1:20 left in the first period. Early 2-0 lead for men.
And I think, Alan, you're going to see these guys, and they have to be patient, but at the same time, both coaches have stressed the entire week with this rivalry duel that every point will count. And when you saw in the last match, Webb let Hall up, it was so that he could take him to his back. If you get that pin, that's 6 points. That pin with just 0.9 seconds left, there's 6 points instead of a possible 5 for a tech fall. Gave Kiski the early advantage, and now you see Mercersburg coming back to take advantage.
As men let up Wensing, give them the escape, so both wrestlers on their feet with 41 seconds left to go in the first period. 2-1 advantage in the early going for men.
And Steve's going to have to go after him. He's not going to be able to waste any time. He needs to be as aggressive as possible and take this pressure to him.
Blue Storm down right now 6-0 in the overall match after the first weight classes. Men gets another takedown. He'll keep the ankle as Wensing will try to work back to his feet. As he's going to hold him up, try to break him back down. 15 seconds remain in the period.
And that's what you see with Kiski. Men's got the advantage, 4-1, and yet as soon as he lets Wensing up, Wensing goes after him and almost gets a takedown. Steve relaxed there for a second, and that's a Joe Ross coach team right there. They come at you no matter what.
6 seconds remaining in the first period, 4-2, as they both will more than likely end their feet, as Ming will try to go for a late takedown attempt, but will finish the period.
Yep, he doesn't get it.
With a 4-2 advantage. So now, second period upon us. The toss goes to after the first toss, the first period will be decided. Wensing will get the decision. He will defer, and men will choose bottom.
Actually, I think he may have chosen top.
Excuse me.
I don't think he deferred. This is an interesting choice, and it's also a really interesting top mount because I think that was almost illegal.
As immediately men will get the reversal for 2 points, leading 6-2. He will cut Wensing, move it back to a 6-3 early going in the second period. As both guys scrambling back and forth, Wensing goes for the takedown, tries to go around but couldn't. Men takes advantage. It's going back and forth right now.
It's actually 8-4. Now Wensing gets that takedown. That's going to make it 8-6.
As Wensing has the control off of that failed takedown attempt by Min, and he basically landed on the back, but Min will go up. And Joe Ross, the head coach for Kiski, was saying he loves back and forth matches. Exactly one he has right here with his wrestler.
I think the people at the score table and our Doug Corral, who's a veteran official, is going to go over and sort this out. Because, Alan, I'm not sure that 10-5 score is correct.
It seems like it was 10-6 for us.
We had 10-6.
With the several escapes with the reversal.
Yeah, but they're going to leave it at 10-5. I guess he confirmed it with both books.
So, men with the control with 1:11 left in the second period.
I think Mercersburg got away with one there, actually.
It seems like it, because according to us, it was 10-6, but with the statisticians, 10-5.
Yep, and they're the official book, so we go with that.
Men trying to keep Wensing down, but Wensing's been able to get off of his base and get up to his feet. As there, he gets another escape to update the score to 10-6.
Yeah, Steve has got when Steve's on top, he's doing a nice job on his feet, but he's doing very little on top. He's just kind of hanging on, and he's not running the pinning combinations that he needs to run. It's almost like he's looking for a big move to try to take Wensing to his back, and it's not going to, may not happen.
As 12-6 right now, make it 12-7 with 30 seconds left to go in the second period. Both guys fighting in there at the edge of the mat, as that'll stop the clock. 26 seconds remaining.
And this could be big because, Steve Min is one of Coach Nate Jacquelin's big guns in this lineup. I mean, this is a win that Mercersburg expects to have, and I'm sure that Coach Jacqueline and his crew are looking for a pin. And if Wensing's able to get out of this and only give up a decision, that's huge for Kiski.
As Min goes for another takedown attempt, Wensing will defend here. As both guys scrambling down low. Min controlling the leg as he was working to the back. Short time remaining on the period, 5 seconds according to the official scoreboard. Both guys scrambling, nothing yet, as they will end the period at a stalemate.
And that was a nice job by Wensing putting that half Nelson in on the opposite side as Min hit the sweep single, but he was unable to secure control, and the official, appropriately didn't give him the takedown.
Min has a 5-point advantage heading into the final period of the 120-pound match. As Nate Jacqueline will go to the officials' table trying to correct some issue here that they're having, because we've already had one score issue in this match. And currently with Kiski leading 6-0 on the Blue Storm, you got to know Jacqueline's trying to figure out everything for this match to get back into the overall duel tonight.
Yeah, if Min can't get a pin, he definitely wants him to get at least a major, if not a tech. What's interesting, though, is that Wensing seems to be right there with Min. He doesn't seem like he's out of breath or anything else. And now he's on top, and he's controlling Min.
Min chose bottom to begin the third period. He's going to look to get up. He's back to his feet. Wensing trying to take him down. Min looked like he was attempting the reversible. Wensing continuing to stay pace and keep the top control.
And that's a nice job. Wensing is more impressive in this period on top than he was the last period. Steve jumped out on him the last period. And this time, Wensing's doing a nice job again. There's that Kiski half Nelson. He's going to lock it in there. He's going to hang on.
As Min looking to get up, he has the hand controls. He'll get the escape, leading 13-7 with a minute 20 left in the third. Wensing goes for the single leg attempt, but can't get it, as the referee will call them out of bounds.
And that is Alan, that right there is, unfortunately, for Steve Min, you call it a rookie error. Wensing, I think, is not a rookie wrestler, but, he relaxed. He thought things were done. He relaxed on his butt, and Min could have nailed him right there, and he didn't. Instead, he stepped out, and now it looks like he could get in trouble.
As Wensing looked like he had the headlock, hip toss, could not get him down to the ground. Min has the back, but doesn't have the official control yet for the referee, as it's currently a stalemate. He's rocking the hip over, trying to get it down. As they both continue, Wensing will roll to Min's back and get the takedown. 4-point match right now, 13-9. Min with the advantage for the Blue Storm.
Yeah, Steve's going to have to get up. He's going to have to regain his base, pressure back. Here comes that half. Oh, there's a full Nelson.
As the referee will call the full Nelson, that's an illegal maneuver, and that gives a point to Steve Min. And now he has the 5-point advantage with 34 seconds remaining.
And I tell you what, Alan, it's actually fortunate for Steve Min that Wensing made that mistake, inexperienced wrestler mistake, because if he hadn't put that second hand in for the full Nelson, he had Min turned.
Yeah, as both wrestlers will get set in the official position as quick stoppage with giving a caution.
Yeah, that's an illegal start and the illegal position on the Kiski wrestler.
As Wensing will be told by the referee, I believe that'll be one caution for that.
If he gets a caution, he'll get another caution. On the third caution, and he could have gotten cautioned there too. He'll get a third caution, he gives up a point.
As Wensing will keep men down to the mat, 25 seconds remaining in the period. As trying to look to get some points here. Men will roll and get the reversal as he will get those needed 2 points. Up 16-9 with 14 seconds left.
Yeah, Coach Nate Jacklin trying to get him to let him up because he wants that major decision. It's 16-9. That's a 7-point differential, which is only going to give Mercersburg 3 points for the win.
As the time will run out with the final in the 120-pound division going to Steve Min, 16-9 with the 7-point advantage, but that's only a 3-point score for the Blue Storm.
Yeah, and that's an individual bout, and it's going to be like this in a dual meet that's this intense. 1 point, like we talked about before, can make the difference. And Steve Min getting a regular decision versus a major decision, you can see that Coach Jacklin is not happy because Steve's typically going to be able to get more points than that for his team.
As now we'll move to the 126-pound division. Brian Wilson for Mercersburg. I'm trying to figure out who they will have here for.
I'm thinking that it might be Sterling Myers. They may have switched it up on us, Alan. We may have just been watching Sterling Myers. This may be Alan Wensing. That's a possibility, I think.
As both guys wrestling early going.
This is that back and forth chess match I talked about at the beginning of the broadcast, that coaches will put these guys in here at one weight class and move them to another weight class. We don't have a PA system, so we don't get to hear. We're not familiar with the Kiski guys, so this may have switched up. Myers may have been in that 120-pound bout, and this actually may be Wensing.
Oh, then we'll go with Wensing actually wrestling here as early going Brian Wilson with the early takedown.
Nelson's one of the hardest working kids in that Mercersburg wrestling room. He's a kid that works in the off season. He goes to camps. He had a really tough year last year, and coaches always talk about that kid that they'd like to have 10 of in a room or on a field. He's one of those kids, because if anybody was ever going to quit because of lack of success last year, it would have been Brian Nelson. He only won like 3 matches, but he's come back this year and he's being pretty successful, and you can see now that he's already taken control of this bout.
As the junior from Herndon, Virginia, one of the Northern Virginia suburb of D.C., having the early going control, is stopped for blood time with Alex Wensing getting a little bit of nose busted there. As that'll go into blood time. You have 5 minutes for injury/blood time, as they like to call it here in high school athletics for wrestling. Is get it cleaned up, take about a minute, make sure it stops bleeding so they can resume action.
Yeah, and it's a precaution, obviously, in a sport like this that you have to take. You have to make sure that not only is the blood stopped, but that it's cleaned up appropriately, because it's skin-to-skin contact. Our athletic trainer, Andrew Myers, Penn State graduate, knows what he's doing. He'll get these guys fixed up and back on the mats very quickly.
Penn State also a very notable college wrestling program, as they've had numerous national champions. They've been winning national championships as a team as of late, producing such individuals as David Taylor, who's possibly going to go to the Olympics here in a few years' time.
That's true. That's true. Actually, Andrew had a chance to work a little bit with the wrestling team up there. He said that Cale Sanderson is not only a very good coach, but also a really good person to work with.
As Wensing tries to get up and go for a reverse, as Nelson will keep the control, keep the 2-point advantage, as he's looking for the arm control between the legs to go for the turn. 35 seconds remaining in the first period.
And that's a nice far wrist ride that Brian's trying. He's wearing him down a little bit. Now he looks for that near side cradle. And this is the difference between what we saw in Steve Min and what we see with Brian Nelson. Nelson's not packing on the points yet, but he's wearing Wensing down already, even in the first period. He looks good. He's going from side to side. He's doing a lot of good things on top.
As another stoppage of action to make sure the nose is cleaned up, stop bleeding. That is something that routinely happens with college or wrestlers overall. Is as soon as you start getting a few drops, it continues to go, and avoiding it from becoming a geyser, if you will, it's very tough to do.
Yes, and Alan, that's the difference in this sport and practically any other sport as well. If you're at a basketball game, if you're in a football contest, anything like that, if you have blood, then you come out, somebody else comes in for you. But in the sport of wrestling, it's you and your opponent and the official in that circle until somebody is victorious. So in this case, you have to stop the action. This is not what Brian Nelson wants. Brian is one of Coach Jacqueline's more intense kids. He's in shape, and he likes to pound it down for 6 minutes. So he wants the fast pace, and he doesn't want Wenxling to get that rest.
As Nelson has been coming strong as of late over the past 2 weeks, placed 4th in the Bissell Invitational and also 4-1 last week at the Capitol Duels.
Yeah, he's really turned the corner, and he's doing several things right, and he's in a tough weight class. The 126 through about 145-pound weight classes in high school wrestling are typically where the best wrestlers reside. It's just the middle of the weights. Looks like we have more blood time here.
And Nelson showing some frustration that he wants to continue wrestling but can't. Just got to make sure about the safety precautions, and the health of the wrestlers involved is paramount.
Yeah, Joe's talking about possibly wrapping his nose so that they can just get it clogged up and keep it that way so they can keep wrestling. The one thing I'll say for Joe Ross at Kiski, and I mentioned it a little bit before, his evolution in the sport, he is a competitor. And, he's a competitor in every right way. He wants to wrestle. So he's not going to milk the blood time. He's going to get his kid wrapped up. He's going to get him back out on the mat so they can go at it.
As you mentioned, the 12th year head coach for the Cougars, talking with him before the matches began, he said, I'm going to set my wrestlers up today for entertaining matches. Not just to do it for the wins, but also get those back and forth, not pin, but say like we just had the 16-9 match between Min and Myers, just a back and forth affair, a lot of scoring, a lot of action, and is that not only glad to see for wrestlers where they get to really test themselves athletically, but the fans as well get to see a very fast-paced match that's a little more appealing, if you will, to the overall viewership.
Makes it much more entertaining, and also the action in wrestling needs to be constant, for it to be appealing. And what had happened with wrestling for a number of years, and they've made several recent changes in the rules in the last few years to keep kids moving. Very few people want to watch a 1-0, I got an escape and both of us got called for stalling wrestling match. Now, if it's a David Taylor that you mentioned before, and he's wrestling another top-ranked kid and it's 3-1, that's totally different because those guys are in constant motion. But that 16-9 bout it's entertaining, but it's also a test because it is, without a doubt, the most difficult thing that most of these young men will do in their lives, and that's go out by themselves in hand-to-hand combat with another person for 6 minutes in front of a crowd like this.
And
drains you emotionally and physically.
As anybody that has experience in wrestling, such as you, such as I, where if you get into those types of matchups, it's going to be fast-paced. You're going to be having those lungs burning, but after it's done, it only further betters you as a competitor.
We always say, Alan, you never forget your first pin, and you never forget the first time that you get pinned in a match, and there's a reason for that. And I've been doing this for 30 years. I've had so many kids. Forget the kids who go off to wrestle in college and the high-profile kids. I've had so many young men over the course of time come back to talk about how wrestling helped them become a better person, how wrestling helped them learn how to overcome adversity. Coach Jacqueline talks to his kids about being mentally tough, about being able to move through things, mentally so that you can conquer things physically. And they're able to apply that later in life. It really does tie in. It sounds like a cliche, but it ties into life lessons. Oh.
Looks like they will have him have Wenxling forfeit.
It's an injury default.
Injury default,
yeah.
As he could not get the blood to stop, and with that, can't have him continue. So that's
unfortunate.
That's an unfortunate way for Kiski to end this match, but a pivotal 6 points for the Blue Storm here, as they can now take the lead 9-6 in the overall team score.
And this one may be short-lived. This is Justin Patrick coming up here for Kiski, one of Joe's better kids, and he's entering in against a first-year kid, Chris Fazekas from Mercersburg.
As Justin Patrick, the senior, as he won the state championship last year at 120, as he's already early going action.
And Justin is he's no nonsense. You see a couple slide-bys there. He's going to take Fazekas to his back. Beat a kid from Wyoming Seminary in the finals last year at states, went to nationals, placed there. I think Joe said, Coach Ross said that he has committed already to the University of Buffalo.
As he's already up 8-1, he has the back of Fazekas already, and it's just seems like it's an outmatch going already. As he has him on his back, he's looking for the pin.
Yeah,
Fazekas will keep from getting the pin. As there we go. As Patrick looking up and asking if he got the pin there, a little frustrated.
Yeah, this is just an overmatched situation. You got a first-year ninth grader trying to hang in there with a veteran senior who's going to go wrestle Division I. And the best that Fazekas can do right now, and this is important, is try to keep his shoulders up, but he was unable to do that.
As Justin Patrick will get the pin with 50 seconds remaining in the first period. So just a quick, cool minute 10 off the clock.
Yeah, Patrick looks good. He looks very good, and I'd say he's going to be one of the favorites to, again, even though he's moved up a couple weight classes, I think he'll be one of the favorites at our state tournament.
As the commit to Buffalo, going to go join the Maction ranks here next season. And it's now moved to the 138-pound weight class, as it'll be Fernando Severa, the junior from Mexico City, Mexico, for the Blue Storm, taking on Cole Frederick, the freshman.
Yeah, so Fernando is another one of Coach Jacqueline's hard workers. He is selected as a captain this year as an 11th grader, has really worked hard. The body that Fernando's got today is not the body he came to us with as a 9th grader. By his own admission, he had led a pretty easy life and walked into the wrestling mat a couple years ago, was a little pudgy, and really caught on, and now is one of the more dedicated guys in the room.
As he's quickly going for the takedown attempts, he's going to work toward the back. As quick action, no takedown there. As both guys will work their way out of bounds. Minute 17 remaining in the first period. Both guys hand fighting right now. As a quick takedown attempt by Cole Frederick, as he'll get the 2 for Kiski in this first period. As both guys really working to get the advantage, and it will be Frederick in the early going getting the first points. As Cole Frederick will get the first points of the 138-pound match.
And Alan, I apologize. I went over to the head table because the chess match continues. Found out that's actually George Zimmerman. Coach Ross, despite saying he was just going to line his kids up and let them wrestle, decided to move George Zimmerman from 132 to 138. I'm not sure we're going to see Cole Frederick. He may move up to 145 at this rate, but I'll try to keep up with the head table on that. So it's George Zimmerman for Kiski right now.
Much appreciated. Zimmerman with a 4-1 advantage right now in this match with 33 seconds remaining in the period. As he continues to keep the top control, not letting Severa up off the mat as they'll stop the clock. 25 seconds left even on the scoreboard.
And that's a pretty good move by Coach Ross to move Zimmerman up for this match. If you're Zimmerman, you're in that practice room with Justin Patrick. That means that you're getting a good workout every day. And if you're putting your time in, you're probably getting better every day.
As Severa placed 4th in the Holloway Invitational and the Sidwell tournament and 2 weeks ago in Biswell Invitational. As Severa trying to get up off his feet, as Zimmerman just keeping a hold of him, keeping the control he needs, as there will be a technical violation with locking the hands around the legs.
Yeah, when you're down on the legs like that, you can't lock your hands after you've gotten control. You have to move up. It's going to be real important here to see if Severa can score in these last 6 seconds, if he can close that gap a little bit going into the second period.
4-2 advantage for Zimmerman with the first period winding down. Severa trying to work to his feet as he continues to work off his base, but the time will run out.
Yeah, and Severa is, we talk in wrestling about angles and leverage, and you create the angles, ironically, by actually pressuring back in and moving your weight and your center of gravity back into your opponent. Right now, Zimmerman has an advantage in part because Severa is trying to get away from his opponent. So a few things in wrestling that are counterintuitive, and that's one of them. You see if Zimmerman either tries to step away or pressures back in.
As Zimmerman gets the choice, he'll choose bottom to begin the second period. As he'll work off his feet trying to break the wrist lock, as Severa will break him back down to his base.
And I think Severa's in a position he doesn't want to be in. He's got that leg in there. He's not really a leg wrestler. He's a little high on the head, and Zimmerman's going to be able to work his arm through.
Zimmerman has the control with the body, with his arm around the hips, but cannot get around to the position needed for a reversal. As both guys go out of bounds, the position will stay with Severa in top control.
And that's very fortunate that they hit the line for Severa because he had gotten too high and was just kind of barely hanging on.
Minute 34 left in the second period of the 138-pound match. And so far, after 4 weight classes, Kiski leads Mercersburg 12-9 in the overall team score.
Yeah, and while all of the matches, all the individual matches are key and important, this is one of the more important ones from the Mercersburg perspective. There are certain matches you figure 50-50s. There are other matches you figure you have the advantage in, and I think Coach Jacklin probably thought this was one that he would have the advantage in and be able to score some points.
Severa, as you mentioned, definitely developed over his time here at Mercersburg Academy. 9-11 on the season, so he's probably wishing he's doing a little bit better, but still controlling as the whistle will be called.
Yeah, and Fernando's got, he's got a losing record right now, but he's in that, what we talked about, the midst of all those good wrestlers. And Mercersburg wrestles an extremely challenging schedule. He's one of the few guys in the lineup that has not missed a match. Injuries, illness, the nasty flu that swept across the United States did not spare the Mercersburg wrestling team for a couple weeks. So he's been in the lineup. He's bumped around to a couple weights here and there, and he's getting better, as evidenced by the movement that he's showing right now.
As Severa was called for a technical violation, that was the stop in the action. And Zimmerman will get a point, now leading 5-2. Zimmerman trying to go for the reversal. He has control, and he will get the 2 for changing position. 28 seconds left to go in the period. As Zimmerman trying to keep the top control, Severa getting out of his feet as he will try to scoot out. He will break the ankle position, get the escape. As he will drive into Zimmerman as he gets a little bit too aggressive, pushes them out of the circle. With 15 seconds remaining in the second period.
Yeah, that's one that Fernando, you get excited, you're rushing back in there, and actually if he'd just done a snap and spin, he probably would be on top right now and ahead 7-5. That's a nice penetration. We'll see if he scores.
As he will get the takedown off of the shot. With 6 seconds left to go in the second period, down 7-5. It's Severa for the Blue Storm.
And now that's where those key points occur. We talked at the end of the first period, Severa was unable to get out with 6 seconds left. But then in the second period with 13 seconds left, he's able to get that last takedown. So he goes into the third period. It's a 7-5 match, very close. He's on bottom. He can score, get a takedown, and even take the lead possibly.
As we just saw the quick replay of the finish of that takedown attempt. As
there's a caution on, I think that's a caution on Zimmerman. He was in an incorrect position.
As he has the top position with Severa choosing bottom there to begin the third period. As with the caution, that's his first. He'll get one more before he gets another point. As the referee will get the start of the period cleanly.
And we'll see if Zimmerman is able to correct that mistake from earlier. He's not locking the hands this time. Staying down around those legs and driving Cervera out of bounds.
As quick 11 seconds ticked off the clock, Cervera sprinting back to the center circle, ready to attempt the escape once more.
This is where you find out how hard you've worked in the room. The guy that has it in the third period is typically the guy that's going to win. So if you're close, you can win that match in the third period, literally because you're in better shape than the other guy.
And Cervera getting back to his feet as he will be broken down by Zimmerman once again on the ankles. As the referee looking close for the hold on near the bottom of the legs. Zimmerman gets back up to a top position, but it will be quickly reversed by Cervera as that ties the score back up 7 apiece with 1:17 remaining in the third.
It'll be interesting here to see if Jacklin has Cervera wrestle on top or if he might possibly consider having him let Zimmerman up to get that takedown, because Cervera in these last 2 periods has been the dominant one. And yeah, Jacklin's going to time to let him up. There's a minute left.
60 seconds left as Cervera does not get him up fully.
No.
And Zimmerman will get the 2-point reversal, but then quickly Cervera will get the escape as he's going for the takedown. He has control of the legs.
He can move up. He can put him on his back right here. He can put him on his back.
Looking
he
to
missed the half Nelson.
As
Oh.
he will get the takedown, 2 points to retake the lead, 10-9. 35 seconds left to go. Cervera will look to cut him again as quickly Zimmerman again spins around and tries to grab the ankle.
And right now, Cervera, that's a very interesting move. Talk about confidence, and there it is. But he misses the half Nelson again. Coach Jacklin is beside himself. Great couple of takedowns, but he missed the half Nelson on both of those and could have turned him.
Cervera with the 2-point advantage, 12-10. Short time remaining here in the third period as it's down to 5 seconds. Looks like he's just going to control this one until time runs out, as that will happen. And that will even up the team score back at 12 apiece with the 12-10 victory for Fernando Cervera at the 138-pound weight class.
And you know what, Alan, that was a great comeback. Now, I don't want to take anything away from Fernando. You're down, at one point he was down 4-1, then he was down 7-4. He comes back, gets those last 2 takedowns, shows that confidence and that conditioning. I mean, that being in shape won the third period for him. You know, just a shame that he didn't see that half Nelson that was there when he took the kid down the last time. There's a possibility he could have turned him. So here's Joe Ross, by the way. Here's that chess match we talk about, because here's Joe Ross deciding who he's going to send out.
As at the 145-pound weight class, it'll be the sophomore from Pittstown, New Jersey, Chris Cruz, in for the Blue Storm as he's 2-5 on the season.
And I think that's Brendan Ferrer, but I'm going to double check. I'll make sure. I'll be right back.
As my partner Rick Hendrickson, the athletic director for Mercersburg Academy, going to check for us to make sure of the wrestlers. Looks like it's Brendan Ferrer Green is listed in our official records here on our roster sheets. There's the quick action going, both guys fighting in the early going. As both guys going back and forth, Cruz looking to try to push for the underhook, as they'll go with the pass by, but cannot get it. Both guys hand fighting inside, collar ties, elbow ties, back and forth, as nobody's really getting an advantage. But in the early, Ferrer Green trying to push the pace and be the aggressor.
And this ought to be an interesting one too, because again, we have a couple of young wrestlers. Cruz is a second-year kid, didn't really get varsity action last year. My impression from Coach Ross was that Ferrer Green is a young kid as well, inexperienced on the mat. I think he may also be a 10th grader.
As both guys right now with a minute into the match, just going back and forth, not really gaining an advantage either way, as Cruz is trying to go for the legs with a little bit of a slide under on the elbow.
Cruz doesn't have much of a shot. He's pretty good at hand fighting, typically does better on the counters. But both of them, ironically, look like they're open for a takedown attempt.
As quick pass-by attempt there by Cruz to no avail, as both guys back inside, hand fighting with 27 seconds left to go in the period.
And Cruz is going for that headlock, or looked like he was going for that headlock. Coach Jacklin is not happy about that. Coach Bo's over there shaking his head and yelling, no headlocks, no headlocks. So we'll see what Chris Cruz does, if he pays attention to his coaches or not.
As 20 seconds remaining here in the first period. Both guys not really gaining any advantage through the first minute and a half of action.
No, and this isn't unusual. You'll see sometimes you'll see inexperienced kids and you'll have a 17-15 match because they're all over the place. Look at that.
As Ferrer Green tries to hop up in the short time left in the period, he actually set himself up perfectly for a double leg wrap for Cruz.
Yeah, if Cruz had literally gone to his knees, he would have taken him down.
As 1 second left in the period, that'll run the clock off. Begin the second period.
And Alan, we just saw Fernando Cervera win a match because of his conditioning in the third period. You see both of these young wrestlers out here already breathing hard, going into the second period. I think this one could very well wind up being very similar in that even though the technique's not there, with the exertion, someone's going to wear down.
As we just got a quick replay of that takedown attempt again, did not seem logical as right now Ferrer Green for Kiski will begin on the bottom as Cruz looking for a turn here in top control as he will get turned over by Ferrer Green as Kiski will get the 2 points to begin in the second period.
And that's an athletic move by Ferrer Green. We saw him kind of almost try to hurdle over and jump over Cruz, and he's able to do something kind of funky here on the mat as well. And he's got Cruz's arm caught, kind of a weird position there.
As he will try to flip him over, he cannot get it done. Is right back at it is Cruz with the reversal as he regains top control as the same as the beginning of the period. Minute 5 left to go here in the second, both tied at 2.
And we'll see what Chris Cruz is able to do here on top. I think that with Ferrer Green and that explosive capability, if Cruz is able to keep his hips worn down, and that's an interesting move as well. Ferrer Green crossing his legs, and Cruz looking for that far wrist Turk. But notice the conditioning. We talked about it earlier. Both guys really pushing it, starting to see it wear them down.
As this almost feels like a battle of attrition as they still have the third period left to go, under 30. In the second, tied at 2. Both teams tied at 12 in the overall team score.
Yeah, and if you're Cruz right here, your Coach Jacklin's telling him be smart. You want to run there's a warning for stalling against Kiski. If you're Cruz right now, you're just doing the smart things and you're wearing him down.
Wearing him down, going for the constant takedown attempts, going for the constant turns as he gets the hips over.
He's got the turret. He's got the turret.
As run out of the period before he can get any points off the near fall.
Jacklin's going to have him take down so that he can try to score the point. In wrestling, down is considered the defensive position, but most wrestling coaches consider it an offensive position as well that you can score points from down there.
As usually they choose to go with those points as we get a quick replay at the end of the second period here as he got the control but just ran out of time on the near fall attempt.
And I tell you what, Kiski's getting away with a few here because that top starting position that they're assuming, Doug Quarles missed a couple.
As we'll get a whistle call for a technical violation, another hand lock there. Locked hands around the body. He tried to hide it a little bit by taking his hand on the forearm.
Yeah, he did.
But it was pretty obvious. The referee saw it. As that'll now be a 3-2 advantage.
That's going to move to 4-2. He's Ferrer Green's letting him up. This will be interesting. There's still a lot of time left in this third period.
There's minute 50 left here in the match of the 145-pound division. 4-2 lead for Chris Cruz and Mercersburg. As a little bit of a stumble on the mat by Ferrer Green of the Cougars.
Yeah, with the way they threw each other around in the first period and nothing but upper body, both of them tired right now. It'll be interesting to see what happens here. You saw Ferrer Green fall. Cruz was unable to take advantage of that, but it'll be interesting to see if one of them actually takes a shot.
As it looks like we're a little bit ahead on the pace. A minute 34 left to go here in the third period. As both guys just back and forth trying to figure out who's going to take the advantage in this neutral position.
And if you're Cruz, you're pushing the pace, you're taking him to the edge, you're taking good hard shots. There's a second call for stalling on Kiski actually though, and that's the kind of shot you take. You know, you drive him off the mat. Don't want to see him get hurt, obviously. Unfortunately, he hit his head, but you take that good safe shot right there.
As that second stalling will be a point for Mercersburg, so now Cruz with the 5-2 advantage. Just real quick, the referee attending to Brendan Ferrer-Green, making sure he's okay. As Joe Ross being told to back up as they'll begin the injury time. Again, 5 minutes for any injury. That includes...
It's actually in high school wrestling, it's a minute and a half.
Minute and a half.
Yes, and what's important to understand here as well is that the official in high school wrestling, as well as other high school sports, takes control of that situation if a wrestler shows any signs of a concussion. And in that case, for example, Doug Coral made the right call. He said, you know what, we're not going back out on the mat. You guys are going to get him checked out. The trainer's going to check him out, and then we'll get him back out to make sure that everything's safe.
Excuse me, I remember it being 5 minutes for blood time, a minute and a half for
Yeah.
injury, but they just a minute and a half overall now as they'll resume action. Looks like he's all right.
Yeah, and that may have benefited Ferrer-Green a little bit because he was showing some fatigue there, and Cruz kind of had the upper hand, almost had that takedown going out of bounds, got the stalling call. We'll see what happens here.
As both guys going into the fight, it looked like Ferrer-Green trying to go for a catch toss, if you will, there, but could not quite get the momentum, as Cruz will get the single leg as they both go out of bounds.
Yeah, but you know, he's not getting it, but that's a good, smart takedown attempt for him. He just needs to get that on the mat so he can bring him down to the mat, inside the circle.
48 seconds left to go here in the match. 145-pound weight class. Still have 152, 160, 170, 182.
Oh, there's a front headlock. There's a possibility Cruz could score here.
35 seconds left. Cruz trying to go around, but Ferrer-Green rotating with him, keeping up the pace.
Yeah, Cruz not getting his head buried. He's got to get his head buried on that side that he's got the front headlock. You notice he's in an incorrect position. An inexperienced wrestler. He's working hard, just making that mistake. You know, you're tired. Needs to get his head down on that left-hand side. He'd have the angle, and he would score immediately.
As he snaps back down again, but Ferrer-Green keeping the arm on the leg as he can't get it. He'll save it with 5 seconds left. He keeps the stalemated position. Time running down low. And it looks like that'll end the match. And Chris Cruz will win it for Kiski by a score of 5-2. Get the decision in 3 points to take the lead for the Blue Storm over the Cougars.
And Alan, we had that chess match is going to continue in these next 3 bouts because Joe Ross is going to have to decide which of his kids he's going to send out. So I'll double check in with the table so that we make sure that we have the right Kiski wrestlers here.
Well, as of right now, we have the junior from Arden, North Carolina, Nick Furigay. Furigay, the 2-5 on the year. He placed 5th at the Biswell tournament, and he will be the one stepping in for the Blue Storm.
If your guy's been out, he's one of those guys that battled some injuries and also battled that flu that we talked about. So his action's been limited. It'll be interesting to see what kind of shape he's in.
As we'll go with Jason Bottoms for right now, as my partner will go double check with the head table to make sure the participant for Kiski. Both guys going early as Furigay has the headlock control, trying to snap him down, but Bottoms keeping himself standing as he will try to turn it. He will get the takedown for Kiski in the early going of this period. Minute and a half left here now in the first period. Both guys going back and forth. As top control right now for Joseph Bottoms. As he's trying to look for the turn, getting a little high. As he's going high right now. Furigay has the reversal attempt. He will get the control and even the score back up.
That's another surprise by Joe Ross, by the way, Alan. Sorry to interrupt you, but that's actually Isaiah Fry that's in there. Yeah, Joe has bumped his lineup around and mixed and matched here, trying to keep us on our toes, I guess.
As he is doing that indeed as another 2-point takedown. As both guys going back and forth right now. 4-3 advantage for Furigay on Fry. 34 seconds left to go in the period. As right now, Furigay will have the top control coming from the out-of-bounds stoppage.
Furigay is actually quite a story, Alan. He came out last year, first-year kid, was doing a nice job. Coaches really liked his work ethic and was progressing pretty quickly. And in practice one day, very unusual injury, very unusual situation, wound up breaking his wrist and was out the entire season. Young kid like that, first-year wrestler, a lot of times that's the last time you see them in the room. And he came back out this year, and you can see not only has he learned more, but he's he's aggressive. He's actually been one of the leaders in the room when he's been healthy.
10 seconds left to go in the first period as he continues to keep that top control, trying to go for some turns, but putting himself in an awkward position here where Fry could get the reversal, but Furigay will maintain the position to end the first period with a 4-3 advantage.
Just a lack of experience there, and lack of mat time. You see that Nick does some things right and then puts that half Nelson in on the opposite side, which is not where he wants to put that in.
Looking at the end of the first period scramble there on the replay to make sure, just to see him continue to be in, despite the scramble, continuing to maintain control.
And he's working for this arm bar. It'll be interesting to see if he can walk it around. And it's unusual, and again, I chalk this up to inexperience. He's reaching under Fry's body to try to take him over when all he really needs to do is walk around that head.
As Fry for Kiski chose bottom to begin the second period, as he will reverse it around, and he looks like he has potential control, but Furigay keeping the defense and continue to keep this at a scramble with no points exchanged.
And Nick's got to get off his knees and put some pressure on Fry. And there's a cradle attempt. That's really what he needs to go to. That lack of experience, lack of mat time I mentioned before, he's just not running that arm bar the right way. You see, Jacqueline is now telling him go to the half Nelson. Very basic move.
As he will get the half Nelson, he'll jump sides. He's looking to run the head for the turn. He can't quite get the momentum that he needed to get the turn. As they'll roll to the end of the mat and they'll go out of bounds, maintaining the top position for Furigay at the 4-3 lead here in the 152-pound match.
And once again, you're on the top, you're pounding that guy on the bottom. He's doing a lot of work. The top guy's working too, but it really wears on that bottom guy. That conditioning, once again, could be a factor.
As 50 seconds left here in the second period. Continuing to look for the turn is Furigay. 17-14-1 overall series score in the wrestling match, or in the wrestling rivalry here between Mercersburg and Kiski, as the Blue Storm have the advantage, but they haven't won a duel since 2005, 2006. Furigay with the turn. He's got the back points. He's looking for the finish here.
He's going to have to get that left hip down to get the pin, and he
does. Will get it with 22 seconds left to go in the second period, as that's a pivotal 6 points in the heart of the order for the Blue Storm on the Cougars.
Yeah, and that was just a nice job. Nick had done a couple of things earlier, put that half in on the wrong side the one time. He kind of got settled down. He wore Fry down to a certain bit. Coach Jacqueline told him, get the wrist as you're going to run that half Nelson. He did, and, gains the victory, and it was a big one.
As you just saw with the replay of the pin, exactly as my partner Rick Henderson said, getting the momentum to put it down. As now we'll move to the 160-pound weight class, as we'll see Alex Olajide for the Blue Storm. As he's got some veteran experience here, the senior, 8-4 on the season. He went 3-1 last week in the Capital Wrestling Tournament. As both guys beginning the action. As quickly out of bounds. As resuming the action, back and forth hand fighting between these two. Who is Kiski's wrestler for this match?
Just got that confirmed. Talking to the Kiski book there, asking them to help us out with some signals. This is Joseph Lehman for Kiski.
Joseph Lehman, the sophomore.
Yeah, and he's bumping up from 152 to wrestle Alex Olajide. Alex, by the way, is a multiple sport athlete. He's headed to the U.S. Naval Academy next year.
As that's huge, he's going to be fighting overseas as he gets the takedown early for Mercersburg.
That's a nice takedown. And look, he's got this far arm. He's going to rotate that into what we call barbed wire and lace that arm, and he could make pretty quick work of this.
As he has him turn, he's getting the counts for the near fall with 1 minute and 5 seconds left to go in the first period.
Yeah, he stepped over there. He's going to have to bury that hip and rotate. Yep, there it is.
As he will get the quick pin, 1:02 into the match, as now the Blue Storm are starting to pull away.
Yeah, there's still a lot of wrestling to be done here in these last few weight classes, and it's going to be interesting because since neither team has a 106-pounder, it's not fair to the heavyweights, but many times it happens. This one could come down to that last match at 285.
As we look back to the turn, as on the replay, as he's showing him burying the hip and getting the quick pin on it. At the 170-pound, it will be Thomas Villano now for the Blue Storm, as he will take on who we assume Michael Gomez, the senior, for Kiski.
We're thinking, and I will double check on this one because we didn't get a signal from. I think that's Samarat Palad.
As Samarat
I believe,
Palad
yes,
will be the actual
yeah, that's the kid. I think that's the wrestler, Samarat Palad.
As Palad in there, he is the sophomore, so a lot of youth we're seeing from Kiski.
Yeah, two football players here actually are both out for wrestling in their first year. Villano, an all-maple kicker, out for wrestling as a senior. And I was just talking to Coach Ross before the match and talking about this Palad kid. I guess he wound up starting for them at an outside linebacker position.
As Villano 3-2 on the season. Again, the senior from Greencastle, Pennsylvania.
He's a local boy. You know, we have Mercersburg's got a pretty diverse lineup. Reflects the diversity of the school. 6 different countries represented, and I think 6 or 7 states. But Thomas comes from just right down the road in Greencastle.
As we've already seen a few on display already, Seoul, South Korea. We also had Abu Dhabi from the United Arab Emirates and Mexico City, Mexico for Mercersburg. So getting guys from all over the place. I guess that's the advantage you have in with preparatory schools compared to, say, a public school where it's all homegrown kids.
It is in one sense, it's a great advantage in terms of the chemistry of what you're trying to accomplish, the essence of the sport. Does it produce the greatest wrestlers because we don't have a feeder program? It doesn't, Alan. But, what's most important about this sport, as with any other sport, but when you look at how much these kids go through out here on the wrestling mat, this is about coming to know yourself better and just being a better person as a result of the trials and tribulations and adversity that you undergo out there on the mat.
Palad goes for the takedown attempt. He gets one leg as defense by Villano as they both fight in the scramble position. Villano looks like he's defending well. 36 seconds left to go.
Yeah, if Villano can get that knee off the mat, he might be able to score here. But see, now he lets go of the ankle, possibly get around on him.
30 seconds remaining as the referee starting to count for a stalemate, but Villano will get to the back and get the takedown. As Palad really quickly trying to go for the reversal attempt. He gets it as now it's back even. But again, another locked hands.
Yeah.
With 10 seconds remaining in the period. The referee calling out the official reversal for Palad, but again, another locked hands by a Kiski wrestler, giving up a technical violation point as Villano will regain the lead 3-2.
And the action certainly picked up on this one, didn't it?
That it did, very short order, and so much so a little bit of a bump for Villano, and it's going to get quickly cleaned up with a little bit of a nosebleed here.
Yeah, that's I think that's the third one that we've seen tonight. The combination of the exertion that you go through in wrestling, and actually, believe it or not, a lot of this has to do with the fact that the sport takes place in the winter. You have dry air and you have dry heat, and the type of sport that we're involved in here, you're going to have that exertion, and bloody noses are not necessarily all the time because you got smacked. Sometimes it's simply because of all that dryness and your engaged with your blood pressure goes up and all of these things. But trust me, those are things that we gain from the colleges because they're the ones that study all of that.
As we quickly got a replay of the complete sequence there from Villano getting the takedown to Plon getting the reversal with the technical violation all there. Great work by our producer Tom, as he's been right next to us, man at the controls the entire time.
Tom is the man. He's doing a nice job with this. And it's great to have Strive Network. You know, this is the first year that we've partnered with them, and this is the third broadcast. Each one of the broadcasts, our soccer match against the Hill School in boys sports, our girls basketball game, Tom and I were talking about a couple weeks ago. Well, last week was just phenomenal. Double overtime win for our part. And now this wrestling match, another exciting event.
As a lot of exciting matches going back and forth. Villano trying to go for the reversal. That was a very physical exchange as he will get the 2 points off the reversal.
He got the reversal
to end the first period. And now Thomas Villano will take a 5-2 advantage heading into the second period. As we'll get a replay of that reversal. Hard slam on that sequence. Very physical, as we mentioned, and well executed by Thomas Villano.
Yeah, and you know what? I mentioned that Villano was an all-maple kicker. He doesn't act like a kicker. He has the mentality more of a linebacker, and we saw it right there.
Well, remember, back in the day, the best kickers were the linemen.
That's true. That's true.
Got to have some physicalness in your kicker, especially when you get there in the higher levels.
Yeah, the big guys used to do the kickoffs, and you know, you'd see those defensive linemen that would come out and have the big boot.
Yes.
So this ought to be a good one. We're going to go into the second period, and hopefully Villano can control the bleeding. But you know, these two guys, I think, are going to go at it here.
As we're taking a look at the Centennial Cup, Joe Ross blocking the way a little bit. But the Centennial Cup, this rivalry dates back all the way to 1913 when the two baseball teams squared off with a Mercersburg getting a 4-3 victory, matched the next year in 1914 with Kiski getting the 4-3 edge. Football comes up in 1917. Basically, it starts getting the ball rolling. Now you have a year-long series starting back in the 2012-2013 season that celebrated the 100 years of rivalry that created this cup. First year of the introduction, it was a tie, but last year Kiski had the advantage, winning 6 out of the 10 sports, with one sport being canceled because of inclement weather with swimming.
Right.
But Kiski's still coming home with it right now. The Cougars have the lead, 3-2 in sports, football, golf, and basketball. Mercersburg, soccer, and cross country trying to even the score here with wrestling and maybe even take the lead with swimming heading over down the hall.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get an update from the swim meets. You know, it's tough to keep running scores sometimes with the way a swim meet works. You know, I have to give Chris Spahn, the athletic director at Kiski, a tremendous amount of credit. Alan, we're talking about the Centennial Cup. He and I had been talking about just the tremendous history between these two schools, and we came to this conclusion that there was something to commemorate it, something to continue it, and you know, the Centennial Cup is what was born of that. It's created a tremendous amount of excitement. That cup shows up, that trophy shows up on the table, and everybody takes notice. Kiski's an all-boys school, Mercersburg's co-ed, so this is just for the boys. We don't have the equivalent for the girls, but everybody in our school, everybody in their school, and look at that, they're still going at it. You know, these guys know it's important. You see Thomas Villano shaking that off. He's going to stay in this.
As it looked like he got his eye brushed a little bit there in that exchange, as Samarat Poland chose neutral to begin the second period. So they'll be on their feet here in the early goings. As again, Poland going real quick and aggressive as he got the control for the takedown but was too far out of bounds.
Yeah, and you know what, Alan? They may have to call – yeah, they're going to go to injury time on this because I think Thomas has got more than a mouse on his eye. I think he caught an elbow there, and they're going to take a look at that eye to see if he's going to be able to continue wrestling. That would be unfortunate if he can't. That thing is swollen. It just popped out.
Looking like a fighter in the UFC a little bit,
yeah.
Unfortunately, with that swelling, as the athletic trainer telling him he can't continue, visibly upset. So unfortunately, it'll be an injury default for Thomas Villano. Samarat Poland will get the victory.
Yeah, you can't risk their safety. You know, unfortunate, very unfortunate, but ultimately our athletic trainer, Andrew Myers, has to make a decision that's based on what's safe and the welfare of the wrestler.
So Pollard will get the victory now, 27-18, the overall match score, with the Blue Storm leading the Cougars. Now we'll go to the 182-pound weight class, as going to a quickly going through this, and looks like Kiski will have a wrestler put into place for this match. As it'll be for Mercersburg, Chris DeMoraes, the senior out of Indiana, Pennsylvania. Yep, that's correct. Indiana is the town, Pennsylvania is the state. And Rick, who is going to be for Kiski?
That is Wade Hogue. That's one of their studs.
As this should be a very intriguing matchup, as DeMoraes on the season 2-10. So
now, actually, Alan, I'm sorry to interrupt you there, but this is Coach Jacqueline's turn to play chess master. And instead of sending out Chris DeMoraes, he has sent out Jose Cervera, who is the younger brother of Fernando Cervera. He's a first-year wrestler. He's going to be in over his head here, but this is where that chess match between the two coaches plays out.
As that's catching me by surprise as well. As early going, it looks like Hogue will get the advantage.
I think if Villano had been able to wrestle that last match and finish it off, Jacqueline probably would not have made this move. But by doing this, he gives himself the advantage heading into the last three weight classes. He's got Slater, Laird, Eisenberg, and Antonazzi there to finish things off.
So 36 seconds into the match, and Wade Hogue gets the pin. As that was very quick, very efficient, and now you have a 3-point differential between these two teams.
And see what this does now, Alan, is it forces Joe Ross at Kiski to bump up Peter Mendling, who's an 82-pounder, into the 195-pound spot.
As for 195, it'll be the freshman for Mercersburg, Slater Laird from Monaco, Pennsylvania, who's having a pretty solid season. He was 4th at the Holloway Invitational, 4-1 last week at Capitol, as he is 9-6 on the season. As Peter Mendling looks like will be in for Kiski, as the Cougars trying to come back in this. Again, they have not lost to Mercersburg since 2005-2006, is the Blue Storm trying to end that losing streak in wrestling. Quick back and forth between both of these guys. As we have an official statement.
Yes, we do. Another move. Joe Ross this time. Isaiah Caulfield, who is not in our program but was on the weigh-in sheet for Kiski. So he was not part of the lineup that was submitted, but Isaiah Caulfield, Caulfield, I believe. So this ought to be interesting. Slater Laird's got a couple years of experience. He's a 9th grader here at Mercersburg. Goes hard, as many of these Mercersburg kids do, and obviously the Kiski kids do. But again, it's going to be a battle of two relatively inexperienced wrestlers, and we'll see what happens.
As Caulfield will get the early takedown a minute into this match. As right now, the points are needed for the Cougars. As Caulfield really controlling Laird early on here. As both of them work, as Caulfield trying to work the wrists with 36 seconds left to go here in the first period.
And the Caulfield handling Laird and keeping his weight down on the mat. Smart move on his part, keeping his weight distributed there, making Laird do the work from the bottom.
Interesting to see the multiple singlet variations for Kiski, with Caulfield wearing a grayish white singlet with black trim, black lettering, where a lot of the other guys are wearing black singlets with a white K on the chest. And Mercersburg going with the solid blue with white trim, blue lettering for the Blue Storm, ending the first period.
And I tell you, Alan, they're all key matches. We know that. But you get to a point in any contest where, certain things need to happen. And this is one where neither team can afford to get pinned. Both, if they come out of this and somebody gets a decision, it's very different than if somebody gets a pin. That 6 points to 3 points is going to be huge.
As Isaiah Caulfield will begin at the bottom as he will escape to take a 3-point advantage. Laird will go for the takedown attempt, but will get stuffed on the sprawl by Caulfield. Caulfield looking to take advantage as he'll get the 2 points, now leading 5-0 early in the second.
And Caulfield is doing to Laird what Cervera was able to do in that 38-pound match a few matches ago with Fries. He's kind of wearing him down, keeping his hips pinned down. He's going with that half Nelson, working those wrists, as Joe Ross, reinforces all the time in their practice room.
As Caulfield really working the control on top, as Laird will work to his feet. He's trying to break the lock, but he will be pushed out of bounds, if you will, as the momentum for both guys going out of the circle. They'll reset back in the middle with Laird on the bottom. As both guys getting reset, and a minute 15 left to go in the second.
We'll see what happens here. Laird's not doing much on the bottom. Caulfield breaking his hips down each time. Laird winds up countering that half Nelson. Starting to come to his feet now. Gets a little bit there.
But Laird having trouble breaking that wrist lock once he's getting to that feet, and not being able to get out as he's more or less getting run off of the mat as he's trying to avoid the pressure and break the control.
Yeah, and the only way he's going to stop that is when he's getting run off the mat, he's just got to change direction with his feet. He's got to literally turn to the right or turn to the left and stay on the mat, and that's the only way he's going to get out.
50 seconds remaining in the second period. Caulfield really controlling this matchup. 5-0 in the 195-pound round, as Laird finally getting the escape after multiple attempts. As back and forth now, they'll be back in the neutral position. 30 seconds remaining in the period. As again he gets back to the control, top control, but in the scramble is Caulfield. They'll go out of bounds.
And if Laird's going to make a move here, he's going to have to take better shots. He's a very aggressive kid. But you notice that his head and his shoulders are out over his body a lot. He's just kind of diving in on Caulfield, not really able to get any leverage on him.
As hand fighting resuming, it looks like Laird a little bit tired as he goes in for another takedown attempt, but kind of falling forward. Caulfield.
There's a scramble. This is going to be important to see if somebody scores in the last couple seconds.
As 1 second remaining on the time. Out of time to end the second period. No points transferred, but 5-1 advantage for Caulfield for the Cougars over Slater Laird for the Blue Storm. So Laird will choose neutral to begin the third period as he's down 4 points.
Caulfield, we'll see what happens here. Laird actually looks like he's a little more gassed than Caulfield at this point, and a large part of that is because Laird spent, the first half of the match broken down. Caulfield did a nice job of making him work, and that wears on you.
As both guys working inside, it looks like Caulfield looking to snap down the headlock, can't quite keep it going, but he tosses Laird around a little bit in that exchange.
Yeah. And Laird's going to have to open something up here, but it's going to have to be a good shot. He had possible advantage just now. Caulfield really hasn't taken a shot, and he doesn't need to. He's up 5-1. What he's got to do is protect that lead, and that's what he's trying to do.
As both guys looking a little bit gassed in the neutral position with a minute 16 left to go in the match. Again, 2 matches remaining after this 195-pound matchup as Laird will be called for stalling.
Yeah, he's backing out. Yeah, he's backing out, and he can't do that. And he's getting a little frustrated, the 9th grader.
As one more will result in a penalty point.
Yeah, it's tough to be a 9th grader and wrestle these upper weights. You're in these upper weight classes and trying to contend with these bigger guys.
Caulfield will get the single and cut down the other leg underneath and get the takedown for 2. 50 seconds remaining.
Laird's got to get, Laird's not only trying to win the match. Right now, Laird's got to not give up any other points. He's got to get out of this, and reaching back to peel that half is not going to do it. He's got to get out of this with just a decision for his team at the very least.
As Caulfield looking to gain an advantage on the top control with the turn. He's been going for that half Nelson, trying to run him and break him down. As Laird works back to his base, but 20 seconds remain. Caulfield just working to break him down and put him back to the mat.
Yeah. And Laird, Coach Jacklin telling Laird, get to your base. He's going to have to do that. Time's running out.
10 seconds left. As Caulfield trying to get a turn to add some more points. It's 6 points advantage right now as time will expire. As that'll be a 7-1 decision. That'll only be 3 points for the Cougars, but that ties the overall match team score at 27 heading into the final two in very important weight classes. It's 220. Cody Frost Eisenberg, the senior from Ashland, Oregon, the guy we spotlighted at the beginning of the broadcast, set to begin the match.
Let's see what happens here at 220. The Cougars send out O'Neill as we expected.
As Matthew O'Neill set to begin, but Coach Jacklin coming up to
a little bit of this chess match again.
We'll find out what's going on here as Frost Eisenberg is dressed and ready to compete, but not coming out.
It looks like Eisenberg's not going to.
We're waiting to find out here. As we had viewed our mics there for a second, as my broadcast partner Rick Hendrickson is the athletic director, and Frost Eisenberg coming over here to get some official clearance from you, sir.
Well, Alan, that was interesting because Frost Eisenberg has been ill. I talked about that flu that's going around with the Mercersburg wrestlers. We didn't know if he was going to wrestle or not. And at a boarding school, you have a 24-hour health center. He has been in the health center, but he was not told that he could not wrestle. He came down. They said he could come to the match. Cody's a warrior. He's a kid that he's been down and out, but he's going to get in there and give it what he can. And, that I had to pull double duty there for a second, make an official decision. The official decision is if the health center did not say that you could not wrestle, then you can make a decision. If they had told him he couldn't wrestle, then he would not be allowed to. And I feel comfortable with that.
As he has the early 2-1 advantage with a quick takedown, then cutting his opponent for the escape. As get a quick pause, as it looks like a little bit of a warning on the head contact, as they'll actually give a technical violation for O'Neill.
Yeah,
so
I think it was just the headbutts and stuff there. I mentioned this before. Cody is he's an athlete. He's only wrestled for 3 years. And some of the things that he's doing on the mat are more his athletic ability than it's actually his knowledge of the match. But you just saw right there the way that he can use his hips.
As 15-3 on the season, we mentioned at the top of the broadcast, he's been wrestling really well all season long, placed first in the Hollowell Invitational to begin the season. And then coming off a 5-0 performance last week at the Capitol Duels.
He also has a victory over a returning National Prep Place winner earlier this season in one of his better matches of the year. And Coach Jacklin thinks that he could contend for, Wyoming Seminary's got a really good kid, a nationally ranked kid at 220. But Jacklin thinks that Eisenberg will be able to compete at the state level as well as the national prep level at the end of the season.
Well, he'll have his chance on December 20th and 21st at the Paysaw State Tournament to find out how well he'll do there. But right now he's got the 5-1 advantage with 33 seconds left to go in the first period against O'Neill.
And Alan, this may be it because right now, and Joe Ross has surprised us several times already tonight. Apologize to our viewers that we were a little behind on the roster changes. But right now, Kiski has no one warming up for the heavyweight bout. And I don't see anybody else on their roster that's eligible to wrestle heavyweight. So the winner of this bout at 220 could determine the winning of the dual meet, because if Antonazi goes out and takes a forfeit, he gains 6 points for Mercersburg, and that's it.
As the first period will come to an end in the 220-pound matchup, 5-1 lead for Cody Frost Eisenberg over Matthew O'Neill. As these two seniors are matching up, as we mentioned, we have Stefano Antonazi still to go for the heavyweights for Mercersburg, but nobody listed on the official roster for Kiski.
Of course, the official roster hasn't helped us much tonight, has it, Alan?
That it has not.
Scrambled like crazy to catch up with all the moves that these two coaches have made in such an important rivalry dual meet.
As Frost Eisenberg got the 1-point escape, and then he's already got a takedown to the back on O'Neill. He's going for the pin. He has him in position. O'Neill fighting himself off as he'll return back to a base, but not before giving up a 3-point near fall to Frost Eisenberg. Eisenberg going right back at it. He decides he'll just let him up to give the point escape to O'Neill. Frost Eisenberg imposing his will right now.
He is, but that was interesting that he's going to go from his feet. I think he's going to try another headlock. You know, it worked once. I think he's going to go back to that. And it's interesting because coming off that illness, I mean, literally coming out of the health center a couple hours ago and being questionable about being able to wrestle, you would think that he would stay on top and try to work O'Neill down a little bit rather than get back on his feet where he's going to have to exert himself like this.
11-2 advantage for Frost Eisenberg.
There's the hip toss.
As he'll get it, another takedown and 2 points. Looks like he's gonna attempt to cut him, but he decides to get back on top before letting him up.
And he's looking at an 11-point lead now. I'm not sure if he's working for a tech fall at this point. I mean, a decision makes the difference.
As O'Neill will try for the takedown attempt, but he'll just drive Frost Eisenberg off of the mat. So they'll go back to a neutral position. 13-3 at the 10-point advantage.
Yeah, and I think that's where, Cody's going to have to be careful here because he does have the advantage, but as we both know, until somebody gets pinned or the 6 minutes runs out, the score in wrestling doesn't always mean that much. And if O'Neill's able to catch him on something like that double leg attempt and take him to the mat with Frost Eisenberg's recent illness and stuff, he would be hard-pressed to fight off.
As one move, one advantage with a move can really make the difference. As third period action set to begin, as they'll stay on their feet in the neutral position.
Yeah, I've seen it happen many, many times, including one time at Mercersburg, we had a young man who filled in for us. He was down 14-1 and hit a Granby roll and pinned his opponent in the last 20 seconds of the match. So Cody needs to, and we may see another hip toss there, Cody needs to get control of this again.
O'Neill went for the single leg, and Frost Eisenberg will defend. He'll get around to the back, take two. He's up 12 now, 15-3. Minute and a half left to go. As he's working to get the points back in the team score favor for the Blue Storm, looking for the first dual win over Kiski in 9 years. Last time around, 2005, 2006. So a long time coming for a victory over the Cougars.
It's been a while. There were a couple years that we didn't get to compete in the dual meet because we're always susceptible to the weather in the winter. But it's exciting to be able to do this in back-to-back years. And Kiski last year pulled it out in the last couple of matches. And, unless something dramatically changes here, and again, the official roster has not helped us that much, but it looks like Mercersburg may be on the verge of pulling this one out and being able to hoist that cup.
Under 45, O'Neill called for a warning on stalling by the official. So keep working with 35 seconds left to go here in the match. Frost Eisenberg cruising right now with a 12-point lead, battling through an illness in this match. As continues to control, not really working too much. I would think the official would go for a stalling on Frost Eisenberg potentially here.
And I think he could. It's interesting that he's not. Cody is kind of cruising right now, as you said. He's going to just maintain control, cover those hips, but he can give up that warning for stalling.
As it looks like he's just going to ride it out and let him stand up as the time expires. So still a major decision by the official score being 15-4 at the end of 3 periods. So that's a huge 4 points.
And we'll see what happens here. As I said, Joe Ross didn't have anybody warming up, and it looks like he is he's going to forfeit the heavyweight match.
So with that, Mercersburg will win the official duel here. First time since 2005, 2006 when they won 55-22. Will win it 38-27.
Yep. And you know what? It's what a great dual meet. You saw so many mini dramas, and each one of those, each team had a young man who unfortunately had to injury default out. For example, we had the blood situation with the young Kiski wrestler. We had Volano, who got popped in the eye and completely by accident. We had the comeback victories in a couple of cases. I mean, it's just that's what makes this rivalry so exciting and so gratifying for. But, you know, both coaches told me this week, they're like, you know what, this is the only time we're wrestling this week because this is for the cup. And so for that dual meet to have that type of magnitude and just the spirit that comes with it and the respect that the teams have for one another is phenomenal.
As it looks like we will have a couple other matches here.
A couple of exhibition bouts. I think they're going to match some kids up that didn't make it into the varsity lineup.
So as soon as we get their names, we will give them to you, and we'll get to call a few more here for you.
We'll do a couple, yeah, I'll go see if I can get some names.
And hopefully the weight class as well. We kindly appreciate it.
Yeah, this is for Mercersburg. This is actually Chris DeMoraes, who was scheduled to go out there at 182 before Coach Jacqueline made that move.
As Chris DeMoraes going in the early going, trying to defend. As he will get the control on the side, but looks like he'll give up position as the Cougars wrestler will get the top control in the early takedown. So back and forth they go, whistle called. It looks like they'll do the exhibition sort of similar to a consolation bracket match where the first period will only be 1 minute long. Second and third periods will be the traditional 2 minutes. So DeMoraes on bottom down 2-0, 220 it looks like will be the weight class, at least listed here. Probably more than likely 182 or 195. As DeMoraes for Mercersburg trying to work off the bottom.
All right, we have a confirmation, Alan. This is Michael Gomez, this young man that was slated to go at 170, and Samarat Palad came out in his place. So Gomez is going to get some action here, as is DeMoraes.
As DeMoraes giving up the takedown there to Gomez in the first period, as Gomez will ride that out to a 2-0 advantage here in the first period.
And we're going to call this a 182 exhibition bout because Gomez moving up. DeMoraes listed at 182. He actually only weighs about 177, I believe. Just a little bit heavy for the 170-pound weight class.
As DeMoraes trying to go for the hip toss. Gomez will counter it. He's trying to work to the turn.
It's whoever gets his hips up first.
As he'll get it off the body lock and quickly to a pin. So Gomez, 17 seconds into the second period, will get the pinfall.
And I think we may have one more exhibition bout here before we're finished at 152. It looks like, Richie Zhao.
Richie Zhao, junior from Ostfildern, Germany. Excuse me, it's been a while since I've practiced my German. That was back in high school for 2 years. So if I mispronounced that, my apologies. But 152-pounder listed in our roster. As we'll find out who he's going to face. Maybe Jason Bottoms or Joseph Lehman will be his likely options.
I think it's going to be Bottoms. Richie's actually, Coach Jacqueline has done a nice job of internal recruiting. Richie happens to be our one of the top 2 golfers on our varsity golf team. Had never stepped foot on a wrestling mat before November, and I saw him in the wrestling room, ask him, what are you doing out? He goes, Coach Jacqueline, I'm going to wrestle, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And you always wonder about a kid coming out like that. He's older. Golf is not the most physical sport in the world. And Richie has just done a great job, loves the physicality of wrestling. You can see that happening right now. First-year kid, of course, makes those mistakes that other first-year kids make, but just is having a tremendous experience this year.
As you don't see it too often, a golfer and a wrestler at the same time.
Golfer and a wrestler, yeah.
As Zhao will get the early takedown on Bottoms, as he'll try to keep the control. Bottoms trying to work out as he'll look to reverse it, as he does, and he's got him straight to Zhao's back. Going for the near fall, he'll get points, as they're both even at 2 apiece on the takedown before the near fall will be counted. So Bottoms with 15 seconds left to go in the first period. Again, first period shortened as Bottoms quickly turns Zhao again.
That was a nice move.
It looked like he had him flat on his back for a moment.
Yeah.
But Zhao fighting, continuing to stave off the pin.
And that was a very nice half Nelson on Bottoms' part. Bottoms
gets the pin with 0.4 seconds remaining in the first period. So officially 59.6 seconds the time of that exhibition match.
Kiski getting some extra work for some of their kids, maybe a little extra measure there, sweeping through these exhibition bouts.
Zhao 2-7 on the season, so definitely some inexperience for the first-year guy, but got some real quick training there, if you will.
You saw how aggressive he is. He gets caught on things because he just doesn't know as much, but he's aggressive, and I think that's why he likes the sport.
As it looks like potentially one more match here, as we have a couple more wrestlers set up and ready for over there for Kiski.
And I'll go check this out and see what's going on so that we can wrap this thing up, Alan, all right?
Glad to hear. Thank you, sir. As we'll wait to see the official 2 members jump out onto the match. But again, if you're tuning in for the Mercersburg Academy versus Kiski School dual meet, that has wrapped up. The final score 37-27. The Blue Storm getting their first victory in 9 years over the Cougars, as that helps even the Centennial Cup record at 3 apiece for the 2014-2015 season, as the Centennial Cup nicely displayed there on the scorer's table, is swimming just down the hall trying to break the tie here in the winter sports. We were told by one of the athletic members that potentially after the winter sports are over between these two, whoever has the lead will take the cup home with them before the spring sports get into action. And then, of course, at the end of the season, whoever leads the overall score from all 11 sports will take home the cup. As right now, Kiski's wrestler gaining the top control, as they have not called an official takedown yet. I believe he had the takedown, as we do finally have it on the scoreboard. 17 seconds left to go in the first period. Again, abbreviated first period, only 1 minute, 2 minutes for both second and third periods. As it looks like Kiski's wrestler will maintain the top control and ride out the first period to lead 2-0. As my broadcast partner Rick Hendrickson will rejoin us here.
All right, as the exhibition bouts go, and for those who are unfamiliar with wrestling, this is not unusual. You have 20-some kids on each team. Everybody works hard every day in the room. Only 14 of those young men can go out and match up in the weight classes. So at the end of a dual meet, and you want to keep everyone in the stable. You saw the chess match between Joe Ross and Nate Jacklin today with the varsity lineups and bumping kids around, so you can't wrestle those exhibition bouts beforehand. And now they're both trying to get some of their young wrestlers some matches. So we have a couple more here. This is actually, and we've had the wrong name for the Kiski kid on the last one. This actually turns out to be Jason Bottoms that's currently wrestling. And he is wrestling Sam Ahern from Mercersburg, another first-year kid. A lot of them in that lineup. It's a 160-pound bout. But I do have confirmation from both of the chess masters that we have this one and a couple more, and I have the names. So, Alan, we will be set there.
There we go. As the 160-pound match right now, as it's Bottoms leading 4-2 on Aaron. As looks like they'll go back to their feet. Bottoms will get the escape, leading 5-2. 1 minute left to go in the second period. As actually up on the scoreboard, it says 5-4. Well, it initially said 4-4, but now it's 5-4. Only a 1-point advantage for Bottoms on Aaron.
And it's important for these coaches to get these young kids these matches. You know, you can practice every day, but you need to be in a contest situation, be able to deal with the strategy, be able to deal with the fatigue that comes, the excitement, and things like that. So it's great that they're able to do this. And you see the sportsmanship, more than just a word when it comes to Coach Jacqueline and Coach Ross. You know, the dual meet's finished. It's obviously a big emotional thing for Mercersburg, but they're very businesslike, and okay, well, let's get these other kids some matches, and they'll celebrate later.
As Bottoms gets another takedown, leads 7-4, 15 seconds remaining in the second period. As right now, Bottoms really controlling this matchup so far. As looking at Aaron's on the season, sophomore, he's winless, 0-5, unfortunately, as he's really trying to get it. Runs out of time in the second period.
Definitely ran out.
Reversal.
Almost there, almost.
As he's looking for his first win of the year. Unfortunately, I'm not exactly sure if I can remember correctly, but I'm not sure if exhibitions count to your official record.
They do not count on your official record. But you know, in the world of the junior varsity wrestler, and look how tired both those guys are at this point, a win is a win, as they say. Sam has had to fill in a couple of places. Again, that illness that overtook the Mercersburg team the last few weeks, hasn't won a match yet, and looks like this might be a shot, but third period, and both of them are tired. So we'll see what happens.
As Aaron actually put Bottom, and it was a quick call for Bottoms to choose, just say cut them, and they started off neutral to begin the third period. Bottoms gets the takedown now, leading 9-5. As any type of real match situation is beneficial for younger wrestlers, especially guys such as these, is like that they're both active, they're both really trying really hard, but you see some of them just simple mistakes from early wrestlers.
Yeah, and you know, some people watching something like this, the quality of the wrestling is not as important as it is what these young men are learning out on the mat. You know, this is something that neither one of these young men, I just talked to Coach Ross, he said Bottoms is a first-year kid, and what they're learning about themselves out there right now is far more important than what the final score is going to wind up being.
Aaron gets the reversal. He's down 9-7 with 1 minute remaining as Bottoms gets called for stalling at the bottom position. So Aaron trying to look for the turn here. He's got the half Nelson sunk in, but Bottoms will turn his head to get the pressure off.
Yeah, Ahern's going to have to come out to the side if he's going to create anything here. But Bottoms just got called for stalling again. I guess he's clamped up there. He's not doing anything. And the official, Doug Coral, said, you're going to have to move. You know, you're going to have to do something. There's that half.
As Ahern has the half in, he's down 9-8, 25 seconds left to go in the period. He's got him turned, but he will be called out of bounds, a little bit too far out of the circle.
Just barely, Alan. If Ahern had been able to keep that right knee inside the circle, Doug Coral would have allowed them to continue wrestling, and he would have been able to possibly pull Bottoms back onto the mat where he could get his near fall points or the pin.
Ahern calling for the escape. So 10-8 with 19 seconds left. Ahern going for the single leg, but gets easily sprawled down, and Bottoms will get the takedown. The lead 12-8, and it looks like Bottoms will get this exhibition victory for the Cougars with 5 seconds remaining with 4-point lead.
Yeah, and that was Ahern is at a point, he has to hit a hard takedown. The technique may not be as important as anything else in that regard, and the fatigue, I think, got to him a little bit. He took the shot, wasn't as hard as he wanted it to be. Bottoms did a great job of countering, and, two young wrestlers just, look at the reactions on both of their faces. You can't tell who the winner was, who the loser was in that one.
Both of them exhausted.
Both of them, yeah.
First-hand experience for both of us on those types of matches.
That's for sure.
As it looks like we'll have maybe one more matchup here in the exhibitions.
We have one more, maybe two, but this is Cole Frederick for Kiski, according to Coach Ross.
And who for Mercersburg?
And this is, where is this? Patrick Sprague for Mercersburg.
Okay, so it looks like it'll be a 132, or looks like it's a.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's Patrick Madden. Patrick
Okay,
Madden. We have
Patrick
two
Madden.
Patricks. Yeah, Sprague is the 20-pounder. Madden's the 32-pounder.
So it'll be a 38-pound exhibition.
Yeah, Madden's another first-year kid. I've said that a lot tonight. My guess is Frederick is probably first or second year as well with the early action here.
Both freshmen, both looking at some action here. Is 5 matches officially on the record for Madden, the native from Burbank, New York. Fortunately winless in those 5 matches, but definitely getting some experience here in this matchup.
Yeah, this again, these exhibition bouts, so important for these young kids, and just excited that they're able to get on the mat.
As 3 seconds left to go in the first period, the first 60 seconds looks like it's going to tick away with no score.
And one of the, interestingly, Alan, one of the first signs of an inexperienced wrestler, and both of these kids were just doing this, is they look at each other in the eyes. They don't watch the hips. So they're wrestling and they're watching each other's eyes as if that's going to tell them what's going to happen next.
As looks like
I think Madden did Madden choose down?
Either Madden chose down or Frederick chose top. I'm trying to figure out exactly which one, but they'll go about it. As Frederick looked like he almost had the turn there off of Madden's aggressiveness trying to get up. They'll go out of bounds, inconsequential, and they'll resume the official starting position back at the center of the ring.
Now, Alan, I know earlier we talked very briefly, you and I, before the broadcast. You're a product of St. Paris Graham, which is one of the top wrestling programs in the country. In your wrestling room, in the St. Paris Graham wrestling room, was there a diversity of experience? The first-year guys welcome the same as the nationally ranked and national level guys, or how was that room? Because St. Paris Graham is one of the names in high school wrestling.
It was an hour and a half of just go at it, go at it, go at it. That's all it was. You went to town. You found a partner close to your weight. You wrestled for a couple minutes. Go let the lighter weights go at it, and then you jump back in. It was back and forth. You just basically tested your conditioning.
And it didn't matter who you are. Who you were. You just got in and went at it, right?
Exactly. There was a technical violation for a illegal hold, a body lock for Frederick. So Madden got points off of that. But then quickly, Frederick got a few points off of the near fall turn.
And Madden trying to work his way through, trying to learn what to do on the bottom, how to actually get out, make that guy lose control. Frederick doing a nice job of riding on the hips of Madden. And here's that half Nelson that Kiski uses all the time. Not a surprise that he would use it here.
As Frederick going for that half Nelson, we've seen that quite a lot from the Cougars all night long. As he gets the turn, he's going for the pin attempt, trying to work the shoulders. As he'll get him down.
And there's the pin.
Minute and 4 into the second period. So officially 2:04 for that pinfall.
Yeah, I think we're coming up to, I think this will be, it's going to be our last exhibition of the night.
It looks like it's going to be looks like a lighter weight guy for Kiski. So trying to figure out exactly who it's going to be.
I think what they gave me was his name is Zach Schaefer.
Zach Schaefer.
Yeah.
As he is listed at 160 pounds on our roster. He doesn't look like he's 160.
That's not Zach Schaefer, is it?
Doesn't look like 160. He looks a lot smaller.
You know what? This is Leslie On for Mercersburg, and once again, I will go check. I thought Joe Ross was finished with the chess matches in that regard, but I'm highly suspect that Schaefer is a 160-pounder.
Leslie On listed 138 here on my roster. The junior, one of those first-year guys, as he's quickly got a turn, as he's going for the pin attempt early in this matchup. He's got him in position to where he can really work him. He's got him over as he will stick him for the pin. And Leslie On, 29 seconds even on that pinfall.
That happened so fast that I didn't have a chance to confirm who the other wrestler was for Kiski. I guess it's not going to matter now.
As it looks like we'll wrap up all of the action here, as we just had several quick exhibition matches going back to the official dual meet. Mercersburg Academy, the Blue Storm, gets the victory to even up the Centennial Cup by the score of 37-27 over the Kiski School Cougars. First win for the Blue Storm since 2005-2006 in head-to-head matchup between these two schools. So for you, Rick, as the athletic director, it must be a proud moment, especially being a former coach of the team.
Yeah, I tell you, I'm connected to the sport obviously because I was the head coach. As the athletic director, I'm just excited about the way these two schools set a standard for good, friendly competition. That you can do it right, you can do it with character, you can do it with integrity. You don't have to have too many times there are the negatives that come with rivalries. And you notice you have these two teams out here right now. They're shaking hands. The coaches know each other well. There's some slaps on the back. One team gets their picture taken with the cup. They get to hold it. They're going to be excited. This Mercersburg team's going to be very excited. And it is fulfilling. But, I am most excited about the fact that these are two great schools, and this rivalry is something that both of them put a value on, but they do it in the right way.
As now, like I mentioned, Centennial Cup even at three wins apiece. Swimming actually happening down the hall to try to break that tie.
And the report that I get in is that Mercersburg is handily winning the swimming meet. So it looks like the Blue Storm might take the upper hand. And interestingly enough, there now comes a break in the Centennial Cup because we go into these postseason events in our leagues and things, and we won't circle back to decide who keeps the cup for next year until late May, when our lacrosse teams, our tennis teams, and our baseball teams play in what should be some pretty entertaining spring sports. But it's like some of the last things that we do in the spring, so that doesn't happen again until May. Again, making this that much bigger.
As best of luck to Mercersburg in the Centennial competition, as well as Kiski School. So wrap things up here for our producer, Tom Monfiletto, my broadcast partner, Rick Hendrickson, also the athletic director for Mercersburg Academy. Thank you for the hospitality here at Knoll Day Gym in Mercersburg, PA. My first time here. Hopefully I'll have a return trip sometime down the line.
Well, Alan, thank you very much. You did a great job tonight, and Tom did a great job with the camera angles. As I told you before, we are very excited about partnering with Strive Network. This is 3 broadcasts in a row that have produced exciting, hard-fought competitions, and I think it's going to continue that way. We have a couple more coming in the spring, so I want to thank Tom Monfiletto a great deal.
For the Strive Network, I am Alan Mars. Thank you for tuning in. Winners for the first time since 2005-2006, hoisting the Centennial Cup, is the Mercersburg Blue Storm by the score of 37-27. Have a good night.